Let's go to our members section. Daisy Dragon says, no, Anna, I disagree. She does mean to mispronounce her name, and she does mean it to be disrespectful. Well, we should throw her in prison.
Whose name was
for it.
mispronounced?
Nancy Mace mispronouncing Kamala Harris's name and making the grave error of saying Kamala instead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a grave error. I think it's a petty, immature thing to continue to do.
Okay.
I think it should be beneath any adult.
I don't think she intentionally mispronounced her name, but whatever. It's everyone can think what they want to think.
She already went through a news cycle of this like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
I know, but it's hard to remember because different people say it differently.
No, this person only says it this way. I literally
had to remember that it's Kamala because someone told me think of comma and then just say la.
That's what the kids did, the DNC. Look, you're not trying to do anything on purpose.
No, I get it,
but like she is because she's a bad person.
Why is she such a toddler? I don't understand. Like John has to treat her with such kids' gloves. He's like, no, honey, don't get in the way of the train. I'm roasting this other person. They're roasting this other person. Like, why are you simping for this? Like, it is immature. It's borderline racist. Surely you could call it a microaggression to say, I don't care how you want your name pronounced, right? This is a lady who will melt down for months on end about being called a birthing person, having to check a box that says man, woman, non-binary or whatever. Oh, that's all crazy discrimination. But wanting somebody to pronounce your name correctly, oh, that's a bridge too far. Like, that's ridiculous. Your name is part of your identity. How people say it shows whether or not they respect you, right? Like, if I constantly called him Gavin over here, you would be like, hey, like, this dude's name's Gavin. And if I was like, well, I meant that, dude, chill. Oh my God, why are you being such a cancel culture warrior? Loser. Like, obviously I just made a petty mistake, and then 2 weeks later I call him Gavin again. You're gonna be like, well, it's a really hard name to get right. Like, not really. Kamala's not that hard of a name to get right either. Kamala Harris.
Yeah, it's really not that hard. I think it's funny because Anna's like, well, different people say it different ways. I'm like, yeah, some people mispronounce it. There's only one way to pronounce it, which is the way it is pronounced. And again, it's not the biggest issue in the world. I think some people, if they're melting down about it every time they hear someone say it wrong, like, okay, calm down. It's not the number one issue afflicting the country right now. But yeah, if you're a freaking news person, if your job is in media and you're still saying Kamala or Kamala or whatever, like, come on, bro. It's your job to get this right. This is the nominee of the Democratic Party, most likely our next president. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard. I also think this is interesting because Cenk Uygur is actually someone that right-wingers have always intentionally mispronounced the name of, right? This is something that Ana Kasparian has watched happen over and over and over again to her own co-host when right-wingers like Ben Shapiro or freaking whoever, come on the show or talk about Cenk, and they always mispronounce his name, even though he's been like a pretty popular public figure online for over a decade, like 2 freaking decades, almost my whole life. Cenk Uygur's been an internet commentator, and they call him cenk, they call him chink, they call him all kinds of weird shit. Yeah, I know. Sometimes it literally sounds like a slur, the way they pronounce Cenk's name. And again, it's not the biggest issue in the world, but it is something I've always noticed. I'm like, come on, man. It's not that hard to say Cenk Uygur. It's really not that hard to pronounce Cenk Uygur, but people constantly, continuously mispronounce it to his face. He's always been a team sport. He's always been like, he's never made it a big deal. He's never virtue signals about it or melts down. But I'm like, come on, Anna, you know exactly what John is talking about. You've watched it happen to your own co-host over and over and over again.
Yep.
But like, she is because she's a bad person.
Okay.
It's not like there's 30 Kamala/Kamalas in like music and movies, and Nancy Mace is like, okay, well, in this one it's that one, and this one it's this and maybe Miss Marvel. And I don't think she pays attention to Miss Marvel. I think she's just doing it on purpose. Again, it doesn't matter compared to all the other things Nancy Mace does. It's the least important thing, but
focus on those things. Nancy Mace, like, she has power in the United States Congress.
Don't focus on anything. Talk about everything. That's what we do.
Look, I just feel like there's way too many hucksters in cable television who make a nice living by going around calling all sorts of people racist, which tears the country apart and is not helpful. Okay, Michael Eric Dyson happens to be one of those people. He gets under my.
This is what you can tell. I don't know what happens to Anna, but I think that she just walks off of the TYT set and just walks right into like a conservative bubble. And so then everybody else is trying to constantly reel her back in on the Young Turks network, even when it should be just, and a no-brainer story. Like sometimes I go into a story and I'm like, oh, I might think a little bit differently than Gavin about this, right? Like I might have to debate a little bit. We might fall down on slightly different positions on this. That'll be fun. We'll get to push back and fence a little bit. But there are other times where like if I say something and then Gavin's like, wait, what are you talking about? And I'm like, what? Like that would be crazy, right? Like if I was like, and what do we need to do? Immigrants built this country, and Gavin's like, we need to get all these immigrants out of this country. That's what we need to. I'd be like, what are you talking about? We don't what? Like I wouldn't be expecting to have to go in there, and that's on a much dialed down note. That's exactly what happens to John Iadarola on this, and happens to him pretty regularly. I feel like where he's just trying to be out here. He's like, dude, this is a progressive news show. Like, what do you think this is? Why are we pretending we're talking to like an audience of people who watch the Daily Wire? Like, this is crazy. Yeah, dude, she is pandering to the Adam and Sitch audience. That's what it's the enlightened centrists.
100%, bro. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. And again, like, bro, I get it. It can be annoying to hear people on the mainstream news or on social media or whatever calling right-wingers racist constantly. But guess what? It's not really our fault. The right-wingers are constantly being racist. It's not us talking about the eating the dogs, the eating the cats. That's not us. That's the Republican Party. Their entire freaking campaign for president is based around racism. Mass deportations is the #1 policy that Donald Trump is promising. Just like build a wall was his 2016 promise, now it's mass deportations. Their entire political project is rooted in racism and anti-immigrant xenophobia, bigotry. It's dominated the news cycle. He said Kamala Harris turned black after originally being Indian. Again, it's not our fault that we have to talk about this stuff. Do you think that Zach or I or most people in media want to be talking about these disgusting racist talking points? No, we'd much rather be debating like healthcare and shit like that. But every time a Republican goes on TV, they can't help but be a disgusting racist. And yes, that includes intentionally mispronouncing Kamala's name. It's not as egregious as accusing Haitian immigrants of eating dogs and cats, obviously. But yeah, it still is an example of their racism and how they cannot just give this woman the respect of, properly pronouncing her name at the bare minimum. It's very similar to when Republicans used to always say Barack Hussein Obama, right? And they're like, what do you mean it's racist? I just said his name. That's his name. But it's like, come on, bro. We know what you're doing. You're saying Hussein to make it sound like he's a terrorist.
Yeah, well, they want to signal to their audience that it's so crazy to even have somebody named Kamala going up and being our president. Like, she's not one of us. She's a Black woman. She's an Indian woman. She's not us. She's not like us. Look at her name. It's hard to pronounce. We can't have her be president. That's what they're trying to signal with that.
Yep. And obviously, I mean, again, we don't need to tell you guys this, but Black people constantly have to deal with these sorts of issues. A lot of times Black people will like put their middle name or something on a job application if their first name sounds like stereotypically Black, because a lot of times employers are racist and they won't hire people who have stereotypically Black names. So yeah, like I know, again, it seems like a microaggression or a non-issue, but this actually is tied to something much bigger. It's tied to a real instance of racism that Black people have to deal with constantly in our society. So I do think it's worth talking about, even if you don't like Kamala, even if you don't respect Kamala. It's not about her. It's about giving respect to Black people. It's about, learning how to properly pronounce people's names that live in this country. And in the case of Kamala, it's not even hard. It's not even, it's not even a difficult to pronounce name whatsoever.
My skin, because
was he in that clip? I'm not familiar with this.
Yeah, it's just what he does. Like, it's just so annoying because there are issues in the country, okay, that do impact people of color. But going around and immediately accusing someone simply because they're light-skinned and mispronounce someone's name, immediately accusing them of perpetuating white supremacy in the country is insane to me, and does not do anything to bring us together at all.
I think with her
all you want to do is bring us together.
Okay, she's a white.
Why don't you shut the fuck up?
Anything to bring us together at all.
I think with her specifically, there's a lot of additional.
Okay, she's a white supremacist. She's perpetuating white supremacism. Like,
I'm just saying, she has herself had this exact same thing.
Yeah, it really is.
It's deranged. I feel so bad for John, and
at least he gets to look sane by comparison and like a normal, empathetic person.
Lefty.
Yeah, and an actual progressive person. Yeah,
perpetuating white supremacism. Like,
I'm just saying, she has herself had this exact same thing multiple times.
Okay,
it seems willful at that point. Is what I would say.
All right, it's willful, John. It's willful. Let's throw her in prison, everybody.
It's not. I don't want to throw her in prison.
I'm just
maybe
sick
for a weekend,
of this conversation.
a 3-day weekend in
honest with you.
prison.
Okay, 3-day weekend.
I'm just saying when people are she's doing it intentionally to send a signal to some people, either to anger us or because she knows racists like it.
She started her statement on that CNN panel by saying Kamala, and then thought she said it wrong. So then she said Kamala. And then before she could say anything else,
I didn't see the clip, so maybe you're right.
Everyone jumped on her. Everyone jumped on her.
Again, I agree with you that like randomly calling people for nothing racist is not helpful, but I also don't think it's my job to sanitize people that I think are racist.
Yeah, they're all the same.
All right.
I think there's a position between those two things.
What else has she done that you think makes her racist?
Makes her racist? I don't know. I don't think she's done that I think make her awful. Racist?
Yeah, for sure. But like, no, everyone is definitely sure that she did it on purpose because she's racist. Okay, so what else has she done to like help bolster that?
Wait, we're about to.
Okay.
John's like, shut up. That was awkward as hell. And again, it's not like John was melting down. Like I would kind of agree with Anna if John was just melting down into a total fit of virtue signaling, right? If he was like, how dare you? This is disgusting. Like, I mean, there would be a point where you could take it too far and it kind of feels like you're white knighting a little bit. And like, you're the white guy who's a little bit too eager to jump in there and, you know, be the #1 most virtuous, anti-racist white person in the world. Like that can be annoying. That definitely is an annoying phenomenon that exists. But that's not even what John was doing. He was just like, yep, and looks like another clear example of someone intentionally mispronouncing the name because they want to send a dog whistle. That's all he said. I think that's pretty, understandable, pretty easy to acknowledge. I don't think that's a crazy virtue signal to say.
No, it actually, what's so funny about that segment is while John's just trying to do his job at the home of progressive news, the Young Turks network, giving his take, being a progressive, being like, yep, that's racist, it's a dog whistle, giving that basically the really obvious analysis that Gavin and I gave to that situation. Is it the end of the world? No. Is it an example of racism? Yes. Is she dog whistling to a certain audience? Yes. Is that a problem? Yes. Is that a reflection of white supremacy in America? Yes. These are all things that you should just understand if you're a lefty, right? Doesn't mean you're at fault. That's the other thing. Anna does this thing where she like intentionally internalizes a bunch of white guilt that's not exactly like, but doesn't belong to her. That's how you can tell that I think somebody's a little like deep down, they don't like love people of color.
Oh yeah,
they like
she's racist,
internalize
bro.
a lot of white guilt that like nobody that's like a normal person would internalize. Like Salisa and I always make fun of, like there was a thing Salisa I believe had to be involved with where like it was like apologize to like the person of color in the room and like let them know like, hey, we're doing better as a society. And she thought that was hysterical. I thought that was hysterical. Like that's just not the way it is. But what you have to do is like when it actually manifests in today's society, like have the balls to call it out, have the dignity to say, I don't want to live in that society. I don't want to live in a society of dog whistles and white supremacy and Ku Klux Klan members. I want to live in a post-racial society. And while that may seem like an impossibility, we could spend every day working to get closer to it. And that's what you should do. Ana Kasparian, she's so easily triggered. I think she does dream of like a white utopia, like a white socialist Scandinavian style country. I think that she's afraid of people who don't look like her. And I think it reflects itself here. And I think that's why she thinks that's where her base is. Her base is a bunch of people who are afraid of change, but don't want to be called racist.
Yep. And also like, I mean, you kind of touched on it, Zach, but the elephant in the room here is that Ana Kasparian herself is racist.
Yeah.
You don't like me making accusations of racism? Well, there's one for you. You're a racist. You're a racist piece of shit. You said on Sitch and Adams' show that you don't like talking to black people because you're afraid that you might say the wrong thing and then they're going to jump on you and call you racist. Yeah, you know who says shit like that? Racist people. Racist people. You know what normal non-racist people can handle? Being checked by a homie who might be a different skin color than them. You know, if they accidentally say the wrong thing and then your friend says, hey man, like I don't appreciate that, or maybe don't say that around me or something. Oh, sorry bro, I didn't mean it. Won't happen again. You move on with your life because you're a normal adult and you can handle being checked by someone. You can handle a little bit of criticism. Oh, it's okay. Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, I'll be better.
Yeah, but Anna can't handle that. She can't handle that. And not only can she not handle it, but she actually then wants to turn around and say that it's anti-white racism because, oh, why? It's because I have light skinned. Oh, it's because I have light skin. I can't mispronounce Kamala's name because I'm white. It sounds like racism to me. Sounds like racism. It's like a Michael Scott bit.